Hi everyone, this is Yasser. Welcome to the Quick Vidya podcast. We are joined today by Manju, who is a colleague from Quick Vidya, and obviously Bala, who everybody knows. Today we will be reviewing the exciting Melbourne Test match and also look forward to the next match and discuss the developments and see how things have unfolded over the past week or so. So, starting with we'll start first with the previous test match and then proceed to the next match. And so, starting on this, and then I think I mean, the first question on everybody's mind, and I think that is what we need to discuss first. And today, Ian Chappell has written an article about Ajinkya Rahana's captaincy and how Ajinkya Rahane is made for a captain because the way the skills he shows, the way he leads the team, and the overall persona is something that Ian Chappell has appreciated in the past. So let's discuss with Ajinkya Rahane's captaincy, and we'll take the views and how his performance has been in the last Test match and going forward in the next two matches. So Manju, we start with you. What is your view and feedback on Rahane's captaincy?
Yeah, he's been a very assertive leader, but not very in the face kind. So I think this kind of laid back style, it should be it should be encouraged. We shouldn't have any problem with the style of leadership as far as it delivers on the pitch. So I'm quite happy with this mode of test captaincy, but that doesn't mean we should put down the more aggressive mode, like with all the spotlight on Kohli when he's there. So both these styles they do work. So as long as Rahane is there, I think we should reap the benefits of Rahane the leader, as long as he is in charge. So yeah.
Bala, what are your views on this, on Rahane's leadership, captaincy, and how he has performed in the past?
Yeah, obviously he created history and he was tactically brilliant as well. And luckily, fortunately for India, all their plan A came into place, and that he didn't have to do anything apart from what was discussed in dressing room, I believe, because whatever moves he did were just what it felt like was it was discussed in the dressing room, and he just executed, and luckily it all fell into place. And our bowlers were brilliant. And Siraj in his debut helped Rahane, and Rahane didn't have to search for anyone else or didn't go out of ideas. And whatever he touched turned into gold in the second test. And it was a kind of what I believe was Rahane was in form. Coming into the series as well. Just the New Zealand series was an aberration, but in West Indies as well, he scored brilliantly. So I don't think I doubted his batting ability, and he just carried his good form. Obviously followed by, he had some drop catches as well. But that is part and parcel of the game. He played brilliantly, and he looked compact as well. Like watertight defense, and his leaves and touch play and everything were top class. And yeah, batting wise, I was not surprised, and he failed in the second test. I would have been surprised because he was in great form. And captaincy wise, yeah, he was brilliant, and whatever they discussed in the dressing room fell into place. And tactically, he was very shrewd as well.
Yeah. Manju, so Gideon Haig has mentioned in his article that the feeling that he gets sometimes with the Indian team is that because of the personality and the strong personality that Kohli has, it's as if the other 10 members are a little in awe of his aura and of his personality. And sometimes that while it has its advantages, there can be on occasions when there are disadvantages. So what is your view on that?
So it's not limited only to cricket. How many people remember Rubens Barrichello, the driver? Many of them don't remember him that well because many times he's been slowing down his car for a constructor's title or in trying to help Shumi get the title. So this thing is universally prevalent when personality takes over in the center stage. So there is nothing wrong in his observation. But another thing, what you see is you can see the marketing side of things because there is a strong personality to drive the interest in the sport. So I don't know if I had marketed the Border Gavaskar ads with Rahane's head, would I have got that many hits or that way? So like the people, the channels may think in that way also. So unfortunately, the industry is in such a way that it calls for strong personalities, or it calls for a very fidgety batsman like Smith to occupy center stage, rather than someone who's very textbook in his cover drive. So that is the nature of things in the day and age which we live in. We have to embrace it.
Right. Bala, how big a role do you think the team management, including Shastri, the bowling coach, and the batting coach, have played in in our performance in Melbourne? I mean, we have been all applauding, praising Rahane, but don't you think even Shastri and the team management also need to get certain credit for the turnaround?
Surely they need to get credit, and when asked about what Sastry said after second test, he directly said nothing. So
Nothing.
if he comes out and says like that, then obviously as a common man, I will think it's all depends on players, and players themselves have overcome that tragedy in second test, and to be frank, no one needs anyone's motivational talks at this level. They are in this level after having seen several failures and several humiliations, so they know how to come over that such a tragedy. Obviously, that was a historic loss, so I'm not discrediting anything. But yeah, I mean, Ravi Shastri said, he directly said, I didn't say anything, and it was all about team. So yeah, obviously, team management needs to be given credit, and bowling coach. Bowling coach shouldn't be given credit specifically, because since Bharat Arun took over, he has been a real star. So there isn't anything that needs to be specifically credited to Bharat Arun. But Ravi Shastri, yeah, we all know how good motivational speaker he is, and even in that Rohit Sharma arrival video, he was just looking young, and his vibes is infectious, and yeah, obviously they need to be credited as well, no doubt in that.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, Manju, now coming to more tactical aspect of the game, I mean, there was a lot of talk about the team combination. I mean, the Indian team combination before the Test match, and there were multiple changes. Some were forced, some were done intentionally. So, how do you think the changes impacted the team performance, considering the 36, the previous inning when they were on 36 for 9?
So mainly they had quite a few people who were coming in without the scar of the 36 all out. Whether it is forced changes or like changes which they were deliberately made. And after that, like we found definitely the value of having Jadeja as a cushion in the batting. So that also showed, and even in the bowling, he did his bit and bowled the difficult spells, and he picked up wickets. So I think this five bowler theory is something they are not going to get rid of anytime soon. So I don't think they will be tinkering with this combination at least in the next test. And the question remains is like who replaces Rohit, and the seamer, the extra seamer who comes in, who will come in.
Yeah. Bala, do you think that in so there was an article which, when discussing about 36 runs performance, says that it was basically everything, all the good balls nicking and going to the keeper or to the slips, and there was nothing much the batsman could do. So, or do you think the team management, do you think the new members who came were a little more quick free scorers, for instance, Pant, even Gill, who's more in form, or somebody like even a Jadeja, they are a quick scorer. So that has helped in India coming out of that past 36 runs performance.
Yeah, surely. I mean, Australia completely went into shell, and we saw how eventually it panned out. And from India's perspective, Gill scored quick runs, and Pant, came and counter-attacked and took the pressure off Rahane on the other end. But I firmly believe that taking the shine of the new ball paved way for Pant and Jadeja to play the way they played. Actually, I mean, Gill is a prodigy, and he was magnificent even with the new ball. Even in the second innings, his shots were exquisite. But I firmly believe that even Australia could have captained once the ball went old, but Indian bowlers were relentless. So it's not all about counter attacking, because in the second game the wicket was flat. It wasn't doing much. With the new ball, it was moving viciously and everything. But once the ball went softer, there was something for batsmen, and there were value for shots as well. So I think blending the new ball also plays a huge part, which we are not discussing much, and it's not all about attacking game. Of course, if players' natural game is to attack, they need to attack. But we can't ask Pujara to play like Pant because Pant succeeded, because that's Pant's game and that's Pujara's game. So I mean, why I'm saying is many people are bringing this up like Pujara is going into shell, because that's his game. He goes into shell
That's his
and he
game.
blunts the ball and he tires the bowlers, and he then starts to score. Because basically, he's not a number three batsman for India. He's an opener. In all the
Right.
Sena cycles, he's an opener. And personally, I may be wrong as well, but personally, what I feel is I expect minimum 80-90 balls to face from by an opener, irrespective of the score, whatever he scores, because blunting the new ball is the biggest problem, biggest task in Sena countries. Because once the ball goes soft, there are middle order batsmen like Pant, Jadeja, Rahane, to capitalize on the softer ball. So yeah, natural game has its advantages, but blunting the new ball also should be considered in this case. It's not all about natural game.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think we all
And
remember
also
the
to add,
last time that, yeah, Manju.
to what Bala said, the patience in Test cricket should extend to the watchers also. So I
Right.
would call for they would accept our blunting the ball strategy.
No, exactly. And I think this is one of the things that, I mean, the last series that India did well here was a lot had to do with Pujara playing, scoring more than 500 runs and tiring out the bowling attack of Australians by the time we reach the third test. So we can't discount his contribution to the team. And just because it is not, the problem I think now is that we need to appreciate the test specialist as well, and not just be overawed by T20 performers. I think that is one thing that, even so, for instance, Vihari, right now, Vihari does not really play across the three formats, right? But he has a certain role to play in test matches, and we should appreciate that. And we should not be quick to bring in somebody like KL Rahul just because we know that he has a certain way of playing, but there is a recency bias and all that is there. Anyways. So, Bala,
And another thing I
yeah.
want to add is,
No.
yeah, I want to add is I certainly agree with this aggressive intent where batsmen should go all out in case when the pitch is behaving terribly, like there is some
Right.
variable bounce and one ball is going up and one ball is going down.
Like
In
the
that case,
Johannesburg.
anyhow you are going to, yeah, exactly. Anyway, you are going to get out, and you should score as much runs as possible before
Right.
one ball
Right.
goes through the ground and hits your stumps. But here in Melbourne, it was a flat track, and there were value for your shots once ball went old. So yeah.
Exactly. So I'll come to you again once again, Bala. So what do you think? Do you think there was a different strategy by Indian batsmen against the quicks this time around compared to Adelaide, or do you think it was more of the same and just that certain things went our way, etc.? What do you think about that? Or do you think, did you see any different strategy
No,
by the batsmen, by Indian batsmen?
No, I didn't see any different strategy from Indian batsmen. Certainly, the arrival of three new batters added to that aura. I mean, Gill, Pant, and Jadeja. But I don't think anything other. I didn't see anything differently that what Indian batsmen did when compared to the first test. Rahane played the way Rahane was, majestic in the first test of the first innings before he ran out Kohli and everything collapsed. And Vihari too looked quite solid in the first innings before Hazlewood held on to Nick back in and he got the wicket. So I don't think anything India did anything different. Certainly they made right choices in picking the right 11. That certainly paved way, and obviously certain catches Australian dropped went in India's favor as well.
Exactly. Manju, what about the way we have performed against Lions? So there is one view that because the matches are ending earlier, so Lion is not getting to bowl at the Indian batsman in the later part of the fourth day or the fifth day, and that is why his effectiveness has been lower. So do you think that is the reason, or just that do you feel Indians have managed Lyon better? Because in this series till date, Ashwin has outbowled Nathan Lyon.
Right. No, in the previous series also, like Pujara especially didn't let him settle down, and he would come down the track even and take singles. So that kind of strategy, although he got dismissed to Lyon in this series, still they haven't let Lyon settle down on a length. So that has been the difference this time. And also, like when their pacers are doing bulk of the work, like either Lyon has nothing to do or Lyon goes for too many runs. So there is probably the wickets are such that Lyon is not coming enough into the game in his style of bowling, the overspin, forward shot, like defensive lines. So probably they are not allowing him to do that.
Right, right, right. And I think now one important factor for the Indian team now is that we can clearly see the evolution of Jadeja as a batsman, especially in the sense that in the last, there is a stat in the last 3-4 years is that he has consistently averaged more than 40, and it's only been increasing. And I think the interesting aspect, at least I saw, was that I would earlier see Jadeja attacking, because I felt that he was not confident about his defense, and therefore he was attacking. But now, especially in MCG, if you look at the first innings, he was very comfortable in defense against even the faster bowlers like Stark and all. So what changes? Have you seen any changes? And what is the impact that Jadeja carries, Bandhu?
So mostly I feel it's been a mindset change. The management has given him confidence to play as a pure batsman, at least in his thinking. So the approach to the innings is like, even this time, as I saw the scorecard, gradually he played 50, 60 balls and got 15, 20 runs. So that is the Jadeja which will help this test team. So I expect to see more of this in the future. It's a good approach from him, because having a triple hundred in first class cricket, I don't think there was any doubt on his credentials as a batsman too. So I think probably he's entering the Imran phase towards the other half of the career, where the batting improves. I hope the bowling doesn't decline. That's the only wish I have.
Yeah, yeah. Bala, what about his bowling, especially considering that Umesh Yadav was not available for majority of the match? Then what do you think was his? I mean, had India played 4 bowlers, we would have been short by a big margin in terms of bowling ability. So, what do you think has been his bowling performance, and do we see that continuing going forward in this Test series?
Actually, he doesn't do anything different even when there's going anything in his way. He's a bowling machine, you know. He lands 6 balls on the same spot, and he's a guy who doesn't make things happen. Or if things are not happening, he doesn't go out of his limitations to do something different. He will just keep bowling what he wants to, and that's how he dismissed Wade. You know, in the crucial phase where he was batting brilliantly, he dismissed Wade, and then collapse started for Australia. So he was just there and thereabout all the time. And as a finger spinner, that's what you expect in overseas conditions as an Indian finger spinner or any spinner in Australia, South Africa, England, and New Zealand conditions where spinners don't get enough assistance. They should just hold one end and help fast bowlers. They make them feel fresh and come back again and again for a fresh spells. But this time, both Ashwin and Jadeja itself are doing, taking wickets at regular intervals. So which makes this attack even more potent. So yeah, Jadeja has he's as a bowler has always been there and thereabout, and there isn't room for any improvement. He's a certain type of bowler who keeps it there even when there's assistance or no assistance. He'll be just there and thereabout.
Yeah, Sanjay Manjrekar would be very happy with Jadeja's performance in the Test match. Now, coming to the next thing, Manju, see one of the facts. See, Smith has a colossal record against India in Test matches, and his copy, to a certain extent, Labuschagne, was also coming with very strong performances, and these two were considered to be the anchor or the main spine of the Australian batting. So the way Ashwin has bowled to Smith and Labuschagne with the leg side trap and choking them for runs and making them struggle, can you elaborate on this, and how big a factor this has been in the series?
So sometimes it so happens that a natural instinct can lead to your undoing. So these are batsmen who are very positive minded and they like to feel bat on ball. And even against the spinner, they would like to take that single round the corner. So these kind of instincts could have got them tied up in knots where using leg slip and cutting down the scoring options. Like even in the to the pacer, like even to Siraj, the field employed was like almost a shorthand version of the leg theory. So there is a short square leg, a short mid wicket, a proper square leg, and a fine leg. So it is like jaye to jaye kahan. So then he hold out in that zone. So maybe they may have to change their initial approach, or they may have to be willing to guts it out for a little longer. And because easy scoring options are being cut down, so that is the thing. And the other part is, of course, the tendency to shuffle across. Now that has been exploited in such a way. Like if I have someone like Bumrah who can bowl a ball that can dislodge a leg bail, then that is like too good. So I think even Smith himself cannot do much about this in this case. So.
Exactly. So, Bala, Michael Hussey has said that possibly Indians have started playing with the mind sort of a thing with Smith, and he should look at adjusting his technique right from the beginning and then changing. And then once he has got few runs, then maybe he can go back to his old style. So, what do you think, Bala, is something that Smith or Labuschagne can do? Because clearly, I mean, if Australia if Smith and Labuschagne performs, the score of 200 becomes something like 300, 350. So that is ideally the difference between the two teams, because the middle order more or less has been the same. It is these two people and Warner obviously who sets the tone, who are responsible for the Australian batting. What do you think Smith or Labuschagne can do?
I agree with the first part that Indian bowlers have gotten into the mind of Speedy, but I don't agree with the second part that where he should change his technique and all. I mean that doesn't make any sense. He has been getting tons of runs and has earned the reputation with the technique. So that he has to change his technique to get some runs initially and get back to his old technique. I don't think that will work. Uh, Obviously, Indian bowlers have gotten into his mind, and that is something that he has overcome in the past as well. You know, after getting a vital blow in the head, he came back to score double century in in Ashes. So we all know what his credibility is, what his credentials are. So there is, it's like it's silly to doubt his technique. Actually, I mean. We all know how unorthodox he is, but he is the most technically equipped guy. Even I mean, everything comes is a poetry in motion when he hits the ball in front of the wicket. But the thing is, he's not trying to hit it in front of the wicket and is doing something else. I mean, even in Ashwin's whatever little he has faced in Ashwin, he's trying to maneuver the field behind square or in point, but he's not playing in front of the wicket. So it's my personal observation. I may be wrong as well. So if he does that regularly, then he will be back to where he belongs to. He will score runs in the third and fourth test. I believe. I mean, it's not easy to keep him quiet for too long. I firmly believe that he is going to, make leather and Indian bowlers to hunt the leather in the third and fourth test. And technique part, I don't completely agree with that anyway.
Right. Okay, so now we have more or less, I mean, we have reviewed the test in a lot of detail. If we go forward, a lot of things have happened. So it has been a very interesting week, new year at least, since the test match. We now know last update is that the test match is happening in Sydney. But there are question marks about the fourth test match. Then there are weather issues in Sydney. Plus, there has been COVID outbreak as well. So, and then there was the Bill Gate sort of controversy which has happened with the Indian team managed players, some of the players breaching the protocol apparently. So Manju, what is your take on that? And because there is some discussion that they'll be asked to quarantine and practice separately and all that. So what do you think has been the impact of this unnecessary controversy to a certain extent?
So the first aspect is this bill issue which broke out. That was just an over enthusiastic fan who ended up uploading something which was picked up. But it also a beneficial part. It tells us about the integrity of bubbles, and it has to be respected. And it has to be followed, although it is difficult. And the second part of this Queensland, where they are, if they fly to, with a chartered flight for the GABA test, they'll have to undergo a hard quarantine that entails they can't come out of their rooms for a particular amount of time, and they cannot train with each other, and there are some restrictions to training. So this is something which our team as a group wants to avoid at the fag end of this long tour, because they do have some implications. See, because not every player, like Mohammad Kaif has recently said, that not every player unwinds by watching Netflix and videos or going to social media. Some people enjoy physical interaction. So all these things have to be considered as like factored in. And even Joe Root has recently said, whoever is having bubble fatigue can opt out of the Sri Lanka tour. So these things are quite bigger developments like in the larger picture.
And Manju, this is very important. And Bala, you would remember when we were doing one of our initial podcasts, we were talking about how the bubble and its fatigue and how the mental health of players is very important in the bubble. Because Smith has also pointed out that the bubble is taking a toll. He has not met his family for quite some time, for maybe more than 3 months. So all those factors have to be taken into account now, and you cannot have. There has to be some flexibility in the way things manage. But Bala, what is your view? All this controversy about what the players were eating, then about the breach of the bubble, which is actually more relevant, and the fact that India is now, there is some news that India is saying that they would like to avoid playing at GABA because of the strong quarantine rules. So what do you think of all this, and do you think it will have an impact on the team morale, etc.?
No, it doesn't. It won't have any impact on team morale, because they came back after bowling out for 36, getting bowled out for 36. So this isn't this is a pity issue. Second thing is we never know whether they broke the protocol or not. There are no clear evidences. Third thing is what they ate is none of our business.
Exactly.
Fourth thing is these things will keep popping out till third test, till the 7th of January. So these all things will keep popping out till the start of the test. And I firmly believe that this is a nothing issue, and no player will be suspended or given one-match suspension or something. Nothing will happen. Rohit Sharma will play as an opener in the third test. That's what I believe.
Right. Manju, coming to you, let's assume the test is it's going to happen in Sydney. Things are still unclear, but let's assume it's happening at Sydney Cricket Ground. Who would your now fast bowler be? And now that Umesh Yadav is not available, there is obviously Siraj, there is Bumrah, and there is Ashwin, and there is Jadeja. So who would the fifth fast bowler be? There are multiple reports. There are certain journalists who have named a certain bowler. But what is your view among Shardul, Natarajan, and obviously, let's say, Saini? Hello? Hello? Manju, can you hear me?
Yes.
I think.
Did you lose? Yeah, I can hear.
So it's basically there is some inclement weather in Delhi, so the connection is not exactly great.
Okay.
Let me 1 second.
Yeah. No problem. You start.
Yeah. Can you hear me now, Manju, Bala?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So I'll just, so my question was, who would the fifth bowler be for India going into the third test match?
Yeah, so my choice would be Shardul Thakur based on his confidence, and he would be able to bowl those hard lengths against with this red Kookaburra ball. Yeah, there is a lot of talk regarding Natarajan and the variety he brings as a left armer. So personally, I would feel if Shardul makes it, it's a good thing. And if Natarajan is selected also, I'll be very happy. But I would prefer Shardul on this.
Bala, what do you think has happened? Because before the tests, before India came to Australia, most of us thought that Saini would be the preferred option in the fast bowling lineup. So what do you think has changed, and who would your choice be for the fifth bowler?
So first things first is I don't think either of Saini, Shardul or Natarajan is going to make a difference. It has to be either Bumrah or Ashwin who has to do the job if India are to think about a win. So the second thing is, Saini has been seen as a bright prospect in all the formats of the game because of his raw pace and his ability to bend the back and hit the deck. But thing is, in the practice game, Shardul Thakur, made debut years ago for India, but unfortunately he couldn't, continue due to various reasons. He was injured, and after that he was forgotten, and he was seen as a ODI bowler, I mean white ball bowler instead of red ball bowler. Naturally, he is a red ball bowler. And even in New Zealand, Saini was in ahead in pecking order ahead of Umesh Yadav, but all of a sudden Umesh played, and in the practice game, how Saini bowled was, I was not particularly happy with the way Saini bowled. He was, he was bowling like bowling in death overs between 45 to 50 overs in white ball cricket. He was trying Yorker, bouncer for three bounces and three Yorkers in an over. You should have a stock ball in Test cricket, and even when it's even perfect example is Siraj. He was there. He kept it there. Every ball he was there and thereabout in the second Test. Even when there was nothing happening, he went past stage several times, but he wasn't unfazed by everything. He was bowling the length. He was bowling his stock ball. I don't see the Saini as a great stock ball, and especially everyone cannot be Siraj or everyone cannot be Bumrah to have a successful outing in very debut game in Australia. I mean that's very difficult place to bowl, and purely because of the fact that I also believe that Hardik Pandya and Navdeep Saini should be nowhere near the test squad unless they are absolutely necessary, because they both are precious for white ball cricket, and India can manage without them in red ball. But in future going forward after Bumrah, I don't see anyone as that pace that Saini possesses. So I see, and Hardik Pandya is a rare breed. So I don't want them to be given more workload by playing in tests as well. So Shardul Thakur, personally, I prefer Shardul Thakur that he can generate that awkward bounce as well, like he did in Sydney, where he was able to generate that awkward bounce from short of good length. So he is capable of that, but naturally, definitely, he is not suited to Australian conditions for sure. But ahead of at this stage, I will prefer Shardul Thakur ahead of Saini. Just because I was not, I mean, I know it's not right to judge Saini based on one practice game, but still, on the confidence he had in ODI cricket, I mean, white ball game, he wasn't very impressive as well. And in a practice game, again, he wasn't seemed to trouble the Australian batters, except for one innings where he took 3 wickets. But yeah, the real test in Australia is when you bowl with a softer ball, and he failed there. And I don't know whether how Shardul Thakur will perform as well, because I haven't even seen him bowl with a softer ball in Australia. So it's just my personal preference, and definitely no Natarajan. Surely it's either Shardul or Saini. There shouldn't be even a case for Natarajan. But I have confidence in Bharat Tarun, because if he plays, I mean his word will be taken seriously. If he makes his debut, then there is something to look into him, because they wouldn't play him just like that.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah.
I think somewhere what is I feel with Saini is that, and especially after his ODI performances in the first few matches, is that this Indian team, test bowling team, bowls a lot of control, and they are afraid that if a bowler comes in who leaks runs, and especially with Saini, who's little wide of the off stump and goes a little hard length, maybe carried away with the bounce, you may all the best laid plans may go for a toss. So I think that is, I mean, just the impression that I get. Maybe I'm just the intuition that maybe they're afraid that he'll leak away important runs, and that would break the entire cycle. So I think they're looking more of a bowler who will continue bowling at a certain conservative length, not leak runs, and just maintain control for Ashwin, Bumrah, and then Siraj to take the wickets. So that would be interesting. Manju, now coming to you, Australia Test team playing 11, there are a lot more challenges, a lot more unrest in the sense that they are not sure. Warner is playing. Will Pucovski play? Will Pucovski has had 9 concussions already. Do you think they will go for him? Wade should play or Wade should come down. So, what do you think is the batting combination, and And if Warner comes in, who plays where, and what do you think is going to happen for the playing 11 for Australians?
So if it is a Warner for Burns swap which happens, then it will be the opening partnership. I would like it to continue as Warner and Wade. So because I feel we shouldn't be too aggressive and drop Travis Head just yet, because so far he hasn't done that bad in this series throughout. Like he may not have had the best of the outing, because there should be some familiar names for a stability in that, because people are not yet knocking down the door very forcefully. And so I wouldn't like to tinker with the positions of Smith and Labuschagne. So I would prefer to have Warner and Wade at the top, because Wade has done a fantastic job throughout the series. So like definitely the others feel he has to bat in the middle order, but now his credentials right from the T20 series as an opener, he's quite establishing himself, and he's faced a lot of balls compared to the other batsmen. So I think I wouldn't like dislodge him from the top. Even I still believe the MCG test turning point was Wade trying to slog and getting caught,
Ashwin.
and numbers 8 and 77 collided, and the catch was taken. So yeah, so I feel they shouldn't disturb his position. But we'll ask Bala if any alternative view is there. Yeah,
Yeah.
and not to promote Cameron Green and cause too much pressure on him, young guy.
So there's one talk, Bala, and you can add to what Manju is saying, is that maybe they can ask Labuschagne to open, and then you still get Wade in the middle order. So overall, what is your view on what should Australia do in terms of their playing 11, in terms of batsmen especially?
No, I don't think there is a need to open with Labuschagne, because Wade hasn't done anything wrong, as Manju said. So there should be only one change in their whole 11, that is Warner replacing Joe Burns. And I know Pukowski has been the sensation and talk of the town and all, but Head and Wade have done nothing wrong. And the way that Head played out Ashwin in the first session of the second test was, mind-boggling. If not for that, his resistance, then Ashwin would have ran through that whole Australian lineup in first session of the second test. So that would have been an embarrassing moment for Australia. Imagine they are getting troubled by an off spinner in the first day of first session of the in MCG. If not for the Head's resistance, that particular passage of play was top notch, and the Head deserves a place in the side only for that passage of play, in my opinion. And Wade obviously didn't do anything wrong. He was he blunted the new ball. He tried to counter attack as well. He did everything what he could do. So I mean, Wade in play, Warner in place of Joe Burns at the top of the order is the only swap that I see. And I guess Green also has some chances to get dropped, because Langer said that Green adds more value when he starts to bowl. I mean, he was bowling, but he wasn't contributing anything with the ball. He was just holding one end, and even not holding 2 or 3 runs per over he was giving. He wasn't picking any wickets. So as a surprise package, Wade and Head might play, and they might drop Green as well. And yeah, and Pukowski as well can play. So not sure, but in my opinion, I think both Wade and Head should play as well as Green, and I see only one change, that is Warner in place of Joe Burns at the top.
So right before we wrap up, I just have two quick questions for both of you, and then we can we have discussed in length the previous match and also look forward to the next match. Two things. Do you think Australia was complacent after getting India all out? I mean, getting India 36 for 9, and then Virat Kohli leaving and Shami not being there. And point number two is there is talk about the run rate of Australians being very low, and this is something that they feel that Warner can come and change that run rate and change the flow of the innings. So these two things, what are your views? I'll start with Manju, and then I'll go to Bala, and then we wrap it up.
Well, for starts, like I would like to believe the run rate is due to our superb bowling. So I won't take anything away from our bowlers. And complacent, I don't feel that complacent. It is just the way they play. I think this Matthew Wade dismissal also, that ball was the shortest. Like, so that was a ball aimed for good length, but it dipped on him. So I think we have to hand it to the bowler. So, and I don't think any other situation, the same ball comes, Wade is going to react differently. So I feel, I don't feel anything like that they were complacent. But yeah, maybe many people have accused them of being a little negative in their approach. So now that is like, if the bowling is so good, then like even we've got bundled out for 36.
Right.
So I don't think we should question them so soon. maybe one more test match the same way, then definitely I will agree with you that they are a little bit negative in the mind.
Yeah, Bala, what is your view? Because Ponting has said that Indians in that small second innings played more pull shots than the entire Australians in the Test match. So, what is your view on these two things? Complacency and then the run rate.
uh, First of all, we all will know whether Australia is complacent or not in the next two games because they will hammer India. I am sure India is going to get a huge yell
I know,
if
I
not
know.
for rain. If not for rain, definitely there is no question of winning in Gabba. That is completely ruled out. And
Yeah,
only question is Sydney. I mean, I know that it is favorable and all, but with rain around and with moisture seeping in, I think Australian bowlers will be enjoying, and India are playing with fourth choice and fifth choice bowlers. So I don't think every day will be the same day for India. And regarding pull shots, of course, Rahane played brilliantly, and Gill was majestic as well. He was batting like a prodigy. He is a prodigy. And punt in the short equal period, he kept the number one bowler in Test cricket in bay. Cummins, he was playing drives, pulls, and everything. He was doing everything. And Jadeja, as usual, he was batting like a professional top order batsman as well. So I think Indian batsmen outplayed Australian batsmen this time for a change. And main problem is Australian batsmen didn't have the service, didn't get enough contribution from Marnus and SPD. That's where everything falls into place. And even in the first game, India had the upper hand if not for the 36 all out. So yeah, India played well so far in the two tests, but I don't think Australia were complacent and all. And definitely Warner will break the shackles and destroy all the talks of them going into shell and everything in the third
exactly.
game.
And also, when we talk about Ponting, we should remember that for 2001 to 2007 tenure, he was walking in behind Langer and Hayden. So in this, when you go behind these openers, everything is going to be positive and rosy. You'll start off with a pull shot to the square leg fence. Life will be beautiful again. So we have to compare that with the situation a Steve Smith or a Pujara has to endure in the current times.
Correct.
So definitely we have to take it in that perspective too.
Correct. Thank you, Manju. Thank you, Bala. It was wonderful discussing and reviewing the previous test match, and obviously looking forward to what promises to be a fantastic series. And to our viewers, please do subscribe. I missed that in the earlier part. So please do subscribe to our channel. And
And also for those who are interested in audio, it will be available as a podcast. So
right,
we will share the link to the podcast in the description.
right.
And,
So
yes.
do listen to us, guys, and we always look forward to your feedback. Thank you, Bala. Thank you, Manju.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Yasir. Pleasure.